If you're feeling confused about whether now is the right time to refinance, you're not alone. Like interest rates are shifting, advice is conflicting, there's just so much going on, and you're trying to figure out, is this the right time? This is why I'm very excited to bring on my guest today because he's a mortgage expert with years of experience helping people make smart strategic decisions about refinancing their homes. But before I bring him on, my name is Shri and I'm a social media manager that helps doctors and lawyers gain an edge online. My team and I help your practice build a social media presence that attracts and retains patients and clients. So let's bring on Aaron Pisano so we can get into this conversation about refinancing, what's going on in the market. But first, let me ask you this. When you're not talking about loans or refinance, what are you doing for fun?
Well, for fun, I'm generally raising my four kids, and then at night I like to cook. I'm an ex-bartender, so cocktail making, try to mix a little bit of it all in, but you see how much energy you have left for the day.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. This whole bartending thing. Because we talked about it a little bit before the show started, but what are some soft skills that you gained by being a bartender?
So I started out, like a lot of people, it was my way to work through college, make a couple dollars, and it was cash, so it was easy. And then, it became something I really enjoyed, and I got promoted to manager. But I learned, I mean, multitasking, and you hate to use that term because I think it's just like not concentrating on one thing for the other, but you do learn to deal with multiple attitudes, and at the same bar you can be serving the nicest person in the world and then 10 seconds later have the meanest, well, I don't think we can bleep stuff out. So, person right next to them who are all want the same service. So you really learn that, the smile through it. It taught me a lot about how to deal with all different types of personalities and how to just kind of grin and bear it and move on. And I call it goldfish memory. You know, if they're past the bowl, I don't even think about it anymore.
I can imagine you had some interesting personality, somebody who's like real nice and jovial in the beginning, and then later it turns out to be like your worst nightmare. But
Oh.
let's get into this discussion about refinance. I know this is so exciting for some of you, but for some of you, it's actually, you really want to hear about it because you know what? There's just a lot going on. And I've learned one thing. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world. Like if you're ready to do it. What regardless of what's going on. So for you, Aaron, you've been helping people navigate the world of mortgages for years. So what inspired you to get into mortgages and refinancing?
So it was got to be about 16 years ago now. I was leaving the bartending world. I was going over to the world of what we call wholesale liquor and beer sales. And I don't think anyone ever graduates college going, I'm going to be a mortgage banker or a broker. Like that's the job I want. Everyone I know has kind of fallen into this one way or another. And it was the same for me. I think we got pregnant with my first child, and right before we were even thinking about it, I was like, okay, I need something with health insurance that has stable hours. I couldn't be out till, I was a New York City bartender, so I was getting home at 5:30 in the morning after doing all the closing duties. So that's really what got me into it, and what's kept me here is just it's so much fun. You still do get to deal with all the different types of personalities. You get to kind of experience a little bit of every situation that's out there, and you really get to give people advice on one of the most important purchases or financial decisions that they're going to make and how to deal with the single largest asset for, I'd say, 80% of Americans. And that's really, it's a really fun thing to do. And it's really gives you some reward at the end when you get it right.
So you bring up a good point. Like this is something that a lot of people are thinking about. Like this is 80%. It's a large purchase. So what's like the most common misconception people have about when it comes to, let's say, just today, I mean, it's not today, but they're thinking about refinancing their home.
So everyone's always so focused on rate. And I know it's hard because people have these three, some even two, four, very low interest rates. And I just had a couple, we won't use names, but that came to me that didn't want to sacrifice this 3.5% rate they have, but yet they're drowning in 25 to 30% credit card debt. These high interest rates that are now almost 70% of what their mortgage amount was. And I'm like, well, what's the point of, having a low interest rate and low payment there to pay more over here? Like there's a balance there. And if you're using your leverage on your biggest asset correctly, you can use that to kind of relieve your financial situation and make yourself a little bit better. And yes, you don't have the rate you can brag about to the neighbors, but at the end of the day, you're paying your bills easier, and that to me is more important than anything.
So when it comes to looking, let's say you do have a high rate, what do you need to do to start the process? Is it like you have to show some statements, or is it that you just come and talk to you?
Yeah. It's come and talk to me. There's a million different products for a million different people. So, if you've got a W 2 and a bank statement, great, nice and easy. If you're someone like, you and I who are self employed, have multiple streams of income, a little bit from over here, 1099s, Schedule Cs, then we have to break it down and have a little bit more of a conversation. But the first thing is, let's make sure it's right for you. It doesn't work for everybody, and it doesn't always make sense for everybody. So, you want to walk through it and make sure you're in the right place, you're spending the money on something worthwhile, and you're going to put yourself in a better spot. So it always starts with the conversation so that we can really dive into the details and break down, what's going on.
You brought up, for employ like if you own your own business, what is one thing that as entrepreneurs we don't think that we should be doing, but we should be doing when it comes to if you're thinking about buying a home or refinancing?
So one of the most important things is, and it's hard to, there's a lot of different ways to qualify a self-employed person, but I have to be able to show that you make money in one way or another. So you run into an issue when you write off everything on your taxes, so your adjusted gross income is low. That's all your traditional bank programs that, if you're there, you're out. But then, now there's bank statement programs, there's profit and loss programs. But what happens if you take a lot of cash? So landscapers, painters, tend to be industries. I had a plumber. Well, I get everything in cash. I don't declare anything. Well, if no money is seen coming in at all, it's going to be very difficult to sell somebody, I make money. I always try to say it's you're dealing with a loan shark in essence, and I hate to use that, but you're dealing with someone who is trying to lend you two, three, five, $600,000. You need to be able to show that you make some sort of money. You can't just kind of say, "Hey, trust me, it's okay. I'm good for it." So you got to set yourself up. And usually self-employed people, I say, let's do, a year or two before, you actually want to dive in. Let's set you up for success so you can keep your tax bills low. We know what method we want to use, but we're doing it all the right way so that you are starting to show some incomes streams. And say 90% of clients who come to me, we can find an alternate program to fit them in one way or another. But you want to set yourself up for success and make it easy on yourself. And that's, something we can do in advance.
Have you ever had anybody who came and said, "Look, I have all my money in shoe boxes"?
I had somebody, I mean, and everyone, but I have 3%. I'm buying a $500,000 home. I have 3%. I go, okay, where is it? There's no money in these statements. Oh, it's in my mattress. And I was like, wait, excuse me? He goes, yeah. I go, what if your house burns down? He goes, oh, I have a number of those fireproof boxes stuffed into the box spring of my mattress. I was like, okay. I was like, so here's how this works. You have to deposit the money. You have to deal with whatever the bank ramifications are going to be on that side, because coming with $15,000 in cash is going to raise questions. But then we have to let it what we call season. So we need 2, 3 months of statements, and we can then use it. But again, you have to be prepared. And people always laugh. I'm like, you would be amazed at how many times people just look at me and go, I'll find the money. Don't worry about it." I'm like, no, no, no. That's my job. My job is to worry about it so that we can, they trust me to vet you. I have to do that fully.
I was just laughing. They said they had money under the mattress, or in the mattress. I'm like, "Oh,
Oh,
I want to know what you do for a living."
listen, there's a lot of don't ask, don't tell in this industry. I was impressed that he put it in fireproof boxes. Because my first thing is always, what if your house burns down? And he had the answer, before I even got there. So someone must have talked to him about that piece.
I'm just laughing. If you've ever heard of a story like that, let me know in the comments, or if you are catching this replay on YouTube or on the podcast episode, which is going to be uploaded tomorrow, let us know where is the craziest thing, what is the craziest thing where people store their money. Like, I'm really interested. Like, where are people storing their money? Is it the walls? Is it the mattress? Where? So, Aaron, can you kind of like talk to us about a client who faced a tough refinancing decision and how you help guide them through it?
Yeah, so I recently had a client who needed to add on to their house. And I'm in Westchester, New York, and this was a nice house in Westchester that they wanted to add on, and it was going to cost probably 100, $200,000, so no small feat. And they had the options of, do I use my credit cards or do I refinance and pull out money out of my house? And it's not easy because to pull money out to do a big renovation is difficult. And you have to use specific specialty renovation loans, and those come with rates. So we did it, and now we're walking them through what the different pieces are and can you afford it. In reality, can you afford it? Because tapping $100,000 on your credit card, I don't think you think about it as much, because if you're scanning for 20 grand here, 20 grand there, sad to say, but it can go very fast, and then all of a sudden you end up with these very large bills. So it was good for them to sit down, and they did tell me, hey, we need a month or two to kind of vet this out and rebudget our life, because either method we use, I don't think they saw the numbers for what they were and what they would owe at the end of the day. So beyond that, we send them down the path of, go start to get the permits. You need surveys, you need all the things done the right way. So they started on all that, and they're going to come back in a month or two when they're ready and have kind of done that due diligence, and that homework. But sometimes you have to say, hey, you need to pump the brakes, slow down, and really think this through, and make sure all the numbers are right before you kind of dive in head first. We don't want anyone defaulting or going into foreclosure. That's the last thing we like to see.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We do not want to go into foreclosure because that would suck. And I mean, you really were open about, hey, this is what's going on. Let's try something different.
Yeah.
Mm. So, what are some key differences? Because I've heard this before, like cash out refinance and a rate and term refinance. Like, what's the difference between those two?
So, and I'll add on a third one that I just talked about. So, a rate and term is and I'm not saying, hey, the words explain it, but I've listened to those words for 15 years, so a little different for me. Rate and term is when you're just refinancing, just the mortgage you have. So that really is usually the goal is, I want a shorter term. So I want to go from maybe 25 years left to 15 years left because I want to pay off quicker. Or I just want a lower rate and I want lower monthly payment. Cash out is whenever you're tapping into the equity of your home. So that means, hypothetically, let's say you have 200,000 in mortgage and you need 50,000 for a kid's college bill. And you need to, you just need that one bill. Okay, let's do a cash out mortgage, and then we can tap in equity and pull out money that's there. Then the third one that we use, that's kind of a cash out, but it's the renovation loan. And that's where you pull out cash to improve your home. So this is used when people know you're going to do construction, when they know you're going to be tearing out a wall, a bathroom, putting in new roof, whatever it might be. So that's a cash out, but with the explicit intent of, refinishing the home and improving the equity position in the home and making it more valuable.
So if you still have questions after listening to this, make
All right.
sure to go and connect with Aaron. Tell him that you saw him on this live or heard him on the podcast because you're like, I'm looking to refinance my home. I'm not really sure what I'm doing. And are you specific to a certain state or is it anywhere?
So I have my personal licenses in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. But the company I work for, I have, a variety of different licensing opportunities where I would be the person to guide you through the process, but pretty much 48 out of 50 states. And, two Midwestern states that I don't think we would have much call for. So, either anywhere you need, you give me a call and I'll be able to figure it out for you.
And you could connect with him here on Instagram, definitely here on LinkedIn. And when my daughter is saying hi to me, hi Sabine, she called me during
Very cute.
the
I love it. I love it.
live. So, okay, we've talked about just a little bit people who've done refinancing, the different types. How do you know you're really ready? Like, what are some signs that maybe I'm ready to refinance?
So if you're ever struggling with a monthly payment, have a conversation. I think people get they think, hey, I have a very low rate. Even people who've been, now those low rates are 4 or 5 years in the past. So there are things that we can do. If I have an adjustable rate mortgage, if you took something called an ARM or an adjustable rate, you need to start having those conversations. So that's less of a I'm ready, and that's more of a you need to start talking about this because things are going to change for you. And then the other one is maybe you're not, but let's have the conversation. You may never know if you're going to be ready, but that's what they pay me for. I'm trained in this, and I can walk you through and look at your whole financial situation and see if it does make sense for you. Or maybe it's something, hey, I'll look for the right rate and the right situation that then we can trigger it. So I have a lot of clients right now who are calling me. We're doing half applications, I call them, where I get all their information. I look at their credit, I make sure they're in a good scenario, and they say, okay, great. When rates drop to this point, I'm going to give you a call. We're going to hit the go button. And with the tariff news today, we did get another nice little decrease in rates. And that, the rates are a roller coaster. So what a rate that might be getting offered in a week from now may change because the economy is in a roller coaster. So you really got to jump on it as soon as it comes. But you don't know unless you're having the conversation. So trying to play the game by yourself is, you got to get a team on your side and have an expert in your corner.
So if I keep hearing if you play the game by yourself, you're setting yourself up for failure. What's another biggest mistake people make when it comes to refinancing?
So people always, they don't always compare apples to apples. So unfortunately, if anyone who does read mortgage news, which I'm probably a little bit of an anomaly in that world, but my buddy with a spaceship as the logo is now buying all these other different pieces, and they're growing. And you'll get a lot of those internet people who reach out to you, or you'll do a Google search on your own and you won't understand the ramifications. Interest rates are not just the rate. There's points and fees attached with each rate. There's different scenarios that you're in, maybe qualify for one but not the other. And people will just say, oh, I found the best rate, I'm going to go that way. And great, if it works out for you, I'm very happy. But at the end of the day, you might get stuck in a situation where you've gone all the way down the road. They're not going to allow you to close under that program, and now you've lost the rate that you wanted. And
Mhm.
because you didn't, you were so focused on the rate part and not on having an expert with you, that again, it comes back to playing the game on your own. You don't diagnose your own. I mean, people do on WebMD, but that's another story for another day. um, it's the same in our industry, and I think people don't put as much to it because you only do so many mortgages in your life. So I think they don't put as much credit to it, but I do think there should be some more consideration when you're going through it.
Well, you brought up WebMD, but really what they might be going to is ChatGPT. So, what is it like to deal with someone who's been coming in and you're like you kind of read ChatGPT?
Yeah. I mean, blessing and a curse, right? It's a great educational tool if you take it as a lot like WebMD. Great educational tool if you take it with the asterisk and the grain of salt that it deserves to be taken with. And there's certain people who come and give me definitions. And, when I say, hey, do you know what this is? Do you know what an APR is? Yes. And they read this definition. I'm like, so you use ChatGPT or Perplexity or whichever program you like to use, or now DeepSeek. And they all talk a little bit different, but the language models, you're kind of starting to get to know them. And that's where you kind of break it down and kind of talk to them. And luckily I have the experience of I have my job, but I also have to explain it to my children. So I've learned how to break my level down to, from a 6-year-old to a 13-year-old, which, not to say and insult anyone's intelligence, but at the same time, that's sometimes the level you just have to put things on so that it's so simple to understand and there's no big words, and then people can really grasp the concepts and make the right decision. And ChatGPT sometimes can go over your head. Although I have realized if you put in the prompt, explain it to me like I'm in fifth grade, it will, it will put it down to a different level. So I think it's great, but it's all on how you use it, right? If you input the wrong thing, you get the wrong thing. And that's really where we're running into a lot of issues. You don't know what to put in, so you don't know what you're getting.
So, do you know of any AI tools that are out there? And I'm not saying that we're promoting, because I'm asking, because this is, we feel like our competition is a person, which is still there, but our other competition are these AI tools. Because if I can plug in some numbers, why do I need to come to you?
Yeah. So there are, companies are integrating it into their application process, and you'll notice, and a large part component of my application process is online as well, and that's for ease, right? It's easier to upload things than to try to mail them to me. I mean, we're living in 2025. I just got asked for my fax number, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna have to get back to you. I haven't used that one in 4 years, so let me make sure I still have the subscription so that it comes through." But that's the reality of it. Is it's not so much that AI has taken over 100%, but people are integrating it into their tools, and it's a trial and error, right now. If you feel comfortable dealing 100% with a computer, and you want to, put again your largest financial asset into that, more power to you. And there's certain people it will work in with spade. There's certain very simple scenarios where it will work and you will not have an issue. So it's not for, but it's not for everybody. Once you start to get more complex than, hey, I have a W-2 and a pay stub, then you need to start talking to somebody, because there is a lot more that goes into it. And the money you think you make is not the money that, I would show the underwriter that you make. So you have to have that conversation and know exactly what you're getting into before you run too far or pay money or this or that for the application. So it just makes your life a lot simpler. And to me, there's a human touch to it, right? There's what you qualify for. And I noticed this a little bit more on the purchase side, but some now on the cash out and renovation refinance as well. There's what you qualify for, and then there's what you can afford. We've pushed the limit. So you can qualify for 50% of your income on certain products. That means half of your paycheck can go there. But what if a part of that was your bonus that you only receive once a year? And what if, your electric bill's like mine in Westchester, and you're getting $1,000 bill every month, or your tax bill is going to increase. Who's going to tell you that? Who knows the complexities of the New York City co-ops, and how their maintenance is going to change? A machine's never going to know that. And I'll take that back. Not never. It needs to be trained for many more years before it will know it and be able to apply it properly. But I wouldn't have known it 15 years ago when I started either. And it's through that experience that I've kind of trained my own, AI model. I guess it's not artificial; it's real intelligence, to be able to answer those questions and kind of foresee that and walk people through how they need to, think about it.
So, if I work with you, do you like let me know when these changes are being made, especially like with taxes and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I'll walk you through. I won't, I don't know exactly when your town or the city's going to reach out, but I will walk you through. Hey, I know that this town in Westchester will reassess as soon as you close on your house. I know that that town won't, and your tax bill is going to stay the same. I know that New York City is going to take forever, and there's certain pieces where just you've dealt with the real estate community for so long, you have that knowledge. And that way I can walk you through, oh, I know, what's the difference between Connecticut and New York in terms of tax collection. And these are just things from having done thousands of files and dealt with hundreds of millions of dollars in mortgages that you get to know. So it's really where I don't even know why I know things anymore. It's one of those weird savant. Like, it's almost like Rain Man. I always joke, like, the toothpicks drop and I just know it. Like when I'm out to dinner with my friends, like, oh, my tax bill went up. I'm like, yeah, New Rochelle just did this with the assessment system, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm counting toothpicks again, and everyone just laughs at me. But it's one of those things that you kind of have in the back of your mind all the time, so it comes out no matter what you're doing.
Well, what it seems like is you're watching trends. So now I'm going to ask you, just on your thoughts based on what you are seeing, what are some trends or changes you predict in the mortgage industry over the next few years?
So I'm seeing a lot of non-traditional programs coming out, helping people who are self-employed. I think we're living in a gig economy, or maybe not a gig economy, a side hustle economy, I guess is the better way to put it. I'm seeing more and more people who have a primary job and a secondary job. And we are seeing more and more products that can utilize that. You're seeing more and more self-employed people in general. But you are starting to see rates start to settle. I don't think we're never going to go back to the twos and threes. And again, I'll retract that. I won't say never because you never know. The next COVID could happen and things could go that way, but it's highly unlikely that we go back down to that low ever again. So I think people need to reset that expectation. And when you've only looked at mortgages for the last 5 years, you're like, oh, rates are really high. But when you go over 15, 20 years, you realize we're about average. Rates are usually in the 6 to 8% range, and we're right there. And I think it just keeps the cost of housing in a sensible place. Right now, specifically, I think we have an inventory issues more on the East Coast. I think you're starting to see it lighten up in the South and out towards you guys in Texas and California. But still, things are selling very quickly. So I think I'm hoping to see some relief in the near future for first-time home buyers. And I think we're about 6 to 8 months off from something being a little bit more tolerable for people who are getting out there for the first time trying to buy their first home.
Do you think, like, just based on what you said, because these are trends that you're sharing, these aren't things that, this is just your experience that he shared. Do you feel like we would have another 2008, or we're not going to go back to that direction?
We're not going to go back to there. 2008 occurred predominantly because we were overlending. We were and you hate to say it, but I've saw mortgages get signed to pizza boys who signed a piece of paper saying they made 80 grand a year when we know they weren't making that. We're so well documented now. We're so thoroughly vetting, even on these non-traditional programs. That's why I say you have to show you make some money now. There's no way around that piece anymore. There's different hard money things, but even that is an expense, and you have to have the money for a down payment. So there's other compensating factors there. We have a better risk model than we've ever had. And I think it's AI is actually assisting in fine tuning that
Hmm.
to make sure that we're not seeing as many defaults and we're not seeing as many foreclosures. And we are seeing that stay at what's the steady average rate in the low, in the low numbers, which is good. So 2008, I mean, now listen, the market could crash and defaults could jump, but I don't think that will be for the sake of the mortgage industry caused this as much as you said it in 2008. I think it'll be more just, hey, the economy crashed and bottomed out. What can you do?
I think there's going to be a crash, but it's not going to be in mortgages. I think it's going to be student loans, but that's just me.
Student loans and credit card debt, those numbers are getting very scary. I mean, trillions of dollars of credit card and hundreds of billions in student loans. It's and not graduating with the jobs to pay it. But I've started. I have a daughter who's 13, but college is in the back of my mind. But I've started looking at the numbers, and it's frightening. it's, uh,
It is. It is
it's
frightening.
it's very
Um,
expensive. So I can't imagine that part getting better. But I hope there's some programs figured out for people along the way.
well, hopefully. But I want to make sure that people know where to connect with you. So, what are the best places to connect with you?
Yeah, so I mean, here on LinkedIn, I have a YouTube and Instagram channel, Loans by Dad. It's called, conveniently named for my kids because I always say my number one job is being a dad. And then I have a website which is just my name, aaronpisano.com, that has all those things listed and my phone number directly. So if anyone wants, that's my cell phone, text, call anytime. I am a talker, so the years of bartending have led me to. If anyone just wants to talk about the mortgage or real estate industry, I'm here. That's what we do. So it's always fun for me to connect with new people.
So, before we end, because what we are going to do is we're going to stop here and we're going to invite you to come and join us on Instagram. But before we do, I want to ask you, running your own business, what are some lessons that you learned that you kind of wish you knew before you started?
uh, you know, attempt fast and fail faster. Is really like the thing. It's something that I think the last few years I've struggled with is the failure is such a part of a salesperson's job that it's hard to keep swallowing more. But I think especially in this market right now, you just have to do stuff. The it's the old one day or day one, and really you got to just start doing stuff and take action immediately. And it's something that I've had to get comfortable with. It's not so much I was scared of it, but it's just it's an uncomfortable way to live your life. But slowly but surely, I'm starting to get there more and more, and I'm doing stuff like this that I never would have done a year ago. So here we are. This is how life goes.
I love that you brought that up because I find that people who have failed so many times more, it's just because they understand it's part of it. So if they're failing more, they know that success is coming. And so if you feel like right now nothing's working, just keep going, because a year later you'll realize everything that you did worked out. I'll tell you, I've been going door to door, meeting with doctors and lawyers. Didn't amount to anything yet, but then come this year, it's so different.
Yeah.
I'm starting to meet with the case managers. The doctors are referring. It's an interesting experience, and you just, when you were talking, it reminded me of Alex Harmazi. Like, even if you don't get a deal, you still get experience. So
Yeah.
never look at a situation, as they say, it's still full. The cup is still filled, even though it's halfway there. So I want to say thank you to everybody who joined in on the conversation live, replay, or listening on the podcast. Thank you, Aaron, for all
Thank
that
you.
you shared. And guys, next week I will be having another guest. And then on the 17th is going to be a fun anniversary episode, 5 years of doing this show. I
That's
can't
awesome.
believe we've been doing this for 5 years. I've got a lot to share. So definitely, if you've been on the email list, you've been reading all of the things that I've learned. But if you're not, you could definitely join. I'll make sure to put the link. But like I said, we're going to stop here. We're going to go to Instagram. So come and join us. And until the next live, everybody, bye.
Bye.